In our last session, we had discussion regarding, we introduced to the world of service marketing. Then we discussed regarding how service is dominating the global economy, and that in today's world most of the new jobs it is generated by service sector. And also we explained service in detail, and we saw the definition of service, and also one of the case study how there is competition between Indian telecom sector and China's telecom sector way back in 2007. One of the case study we had seen. In our today's session, we shall start by discussing the role of service sector in the development of any economy for that matter. Now we can observe that as and when the civilization has progressed, human beings they desire increasingly, which leads to evolution of economic activities. Now, normally, uh, before maybe centuries ago, primary activities were hunting and animal husbandry and agricultural. Later on, as science and technology development took place, it led to emergence of industrial sector. Now, the expansion of both these sectors made the advancement to happen in service sector. Now, two of the you know marketing writers, that is Fisher and Colin Clark, way back in 1935 and 1940, they have divided the economy into primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. Now, I need not explain this in detail, but in brief, let us see what they said. Now, the primary sector it covers tangible goods in agriculture, fishing, forestry, and also hunting. Now, the secondary sector it includes manufacturing, mining, and such activities as maybe gas, electricity, water supply, involving activities with tangible goods and products. Whereas the tertiary sector it consists of trade and public services. But this is not a clear cut division of the economic activities. Now, as economists says, the activity in the list and also there is overlapping of economic activities. And later on, the economic activities it has also been shifted from one sector to another sector. Now, at present, primary sector includes agricultural, forestry, animal and husbandry, and fisheries, and some and such so on. The secondary sector activities it incorporates mining, manufacturing, electricity, gas, water supply, construction, and many more. Whereas the service sector activities include trade, commerce, transport, communications, restaurants, hotels, finance, health, education, banking, share market, tourism, film industry, insurance, astrology industry, advertisement industry, sports, legal services, publishing industry, mass media, and much more. Now, service sector it is also called as tertiary sector of the economy. Now, this sector is expanding at a very faster rate. Now, it is one of the three sectors of the economy. Now, soft part of the economy in the service sector includes all activities which people offer their knowledge and time to improve productivity of it, performance of it, potential and sustainability, and also it is known as maybe advertise, discussion, experience, which include the service sector. Now the service sector, it involves of activities, beginning from the production of goods and service until it reaches the consumer. Now if we observe closely, for the last 30 years, there has been a sustainable shift from the primary and secondary sector to the service sector. Now, in today's world, service sector has become a largest sector of the economy. Now, further, the service sector activities, it can be grouped into four. Now, this you might take down, service sector activities, it can be grouped into four. The first one is trade, hotels and restaurants. So under the first category it includes trade, hotels and restaurants. In the second category it includes transport, storage and communication. Now when we tell transport, definitely transport includes all kinds of transport, that is roadways, railways, airways and even inland and overseas water transport. That is the second one, that is transport, storage and communication. In the third one we have financial institutions, insurance companies, real estate industry and also business services. The third one includes financial institutions, insurance industry, real estate industry and business services. And the fourth group includes community, social and personal services. The fourth one includes community, social and personal services. So what is this community? Now when we tell community service, it includes government, establishment and its departments and also personal service such as health and education, NGOs and such many others. Now these are the four different categorization that we can make. Now even though there is a very thin margin in differentiating between private sector and public services, because some services are being provided by both the sectors. Now we can classify the service sector activities coming under both the sectors. Now private services include maybe things like trade, commerce, transport, communication, hotel and restaurant, tourism, insurance, sports, advertisement, cinema, health and education, level services, and also even the NGOs or non-governmental organization. Whereas government sector, it includes government establishments like legislature, executive, judiciary. Now its various department, its central and state government and its autonomous bodies and also the local bodies. Now these are the services which are from the side of public sector. So these are some of the things how service sector plays role in the economic, or how it has been set up in the economy of a country. Now, if you observe close enough, in any country, the economic development, it has been depending on the growth and the evolution of the three main sectors of the economy. But in recent years, the service sector is growing at a very fast rate, especially in the developing countries, and also it is contributing a majority of share, both in terms of output, income, and also employment. The, the productivity that can be measured per worker in an economy, it is becoming higher in the service sector if at all we compare it with the agricultural and industrial sector. Now already the service sector, it is dominant in developed countries. Now, if you see, if the agriculture sector is stagnant, new service activities are emerging and adding to the service sector, making the economy to grow. Hence, service sector is playing a major role in development of any country it might be. Now, this importance that we give for the service sector, we can gauge it by its contribution that it makes to different aspects of the economy. Now, if we see business, now business includes both domestic trade as well as foreign trade. Now, trade as a service sector activities facilitates the exchange of goods and services between those who produce that and those who consume it. Now, when we tell domestic trade, it refers to the exchange of goods and services within the boundaries of the country. It is political boundaries of the country. Now, it provides both income and also it provides employment to the people of the country who have been engaged in these activities. On the other hand, we have foreign trade. Now, foreign trade also plays a major role in the development of the country. Now, maybe imports of machinery and equipment, uh, especially those machine and equipments which cannot be produced in the initial stages at the home country, are very much essential. Now, such imports which either help to create new capacity in some line of production or enlarge capacity in the other lines of production are called for developmental imports. So the imports which are made in order to make a full use of the productive capacity are called as maintenance imports. I'll repeat it once again. The imports which are made in order to make full use of the productive capacity are called as maintenance imports. Now, if we speak about finance as a service sector, its activity also plays an important role in undertaking any kind of economic activities. Now, when we tell finance, now finance refers to funds of monetary resources which are required by individual business house and the government. Now, people need funds to meet their current requirements or day-to-day expenses for buy or also for buying capital goods. Now, a business organization or a business house, it requires funds for paying wages and salaries, maybe for buying raw materials, maybe for purchasing new machinery, or even for replacing an old one. and all other activities. Whereas if you take government, government needs funds to provide various services to its subjects. The financial institutions, they provide funds to various groups of people for variety of activities. So in this process, if we observe, service sector activities provides income and also employment to the people of the country. Now, if we closely observe, in the previous days, this particular sector or the tertiary sector, it was responsible for distributing the output of the primary and secondary sector for the intermediate and also for final consumption, and also for the providing a variety of services to producers as well as consumers. Now, it may be trade, transport, and the storage activities. All this work, they ensure distribution of goods and services, and also it ensures that goods and services are distributed to the consumers where and when they are necessary, or where and when they are needed by the consumer. Now, these business organization that we spoke of, and also the financial services that we spoke of, now they facilitate mobilization of resources and their development in the activities of different sector of the economy. Now, there is also this point of service sector. You know, service sector activities, they generally require relatively less capital investment than the activities in any other sectors. But a majority of these activities also require relatively less space for operation. So service sector is a knowledge intensive sector, and also it requires substantial human resource development inputs for developing most of the service sector activities. So how is service sector in Indian economy? Okay. Now, um, if we observe today in India, service sector accounts more than 50% of India's gross domestic product or GDP, what we call as. Now there is a significant changes in sectoral contribution of each sector to the GDP of India. Now in 1950-51, if we pick the data, the primary sector was the one which was contributing majority of percentage to Indian GDP. It used to contribute 56.5% for the out of the entire GDP that the country had. Now, the secondary sector had 13.6 percentage of its contribution, and tertiary sector it has 29.9% contribution for GDP. But during 1991, the share of agriculture sector in the gross domestic percent was reduced to 34%, and it was followed by secondary sector with 23.2%, and if we observe there is growth both from secondary sector and tertiary sector. Now the tertiary sector for the year 1991, it used to contribute 42.8%, and if we pick the data of 2007, the contribution of primary sector further came down to 18%, whereas the industrial sector increased to 29%, from 29% to 53%. Sorry. The primary sector during 2007 it contributed 18%. Industrial sector was contributing 29%, and tertiary sector was contributing 53%. During 2008-9, the share of primary sector, further decreased to 15.7%. The share of secondary sector was also decreased to 28%, and the share of service sector was a whooping 56.4%. So these are some of the facts which highlights the share of tertiary sector is raising constantly over a period of time. So the segment of the economy which provides service to its consumers is the tertiary sector. So this includes a wide range of business and also includes financial institutions, schools, transports, and restaurants. And also it is known as it is also called as service industry or service sector. Now, India as a country, it stands one of the leading economy because its growth has been led by the service sector. It is a in the in the economy a large part, both in terms of employment potential and its contribution, comes from service sector to national income. Now, if you have to speak in terms of economics, this demand and supply factors have led to this particular growth. Now, in the demand side, high growth of service in the economy was mostly due to the factors such as increasing input, usage of services by other sectors, and in the supply side, the increased trade in services was followed because of the trade liberalization policy and also other reforms that happened in 1990s. So that this liberalization is responsible for development of finance, transport, communication, and other service sector activities. It also includes the services that is provided in hotel and restaurant. Now, along with this, the increase in demand for health and education, it has also led to the expansion of this service sector. Now, all this data are exciting, but there is one more interesting data that the service sector is providing almost 70% of the new job opportunities in the economy. Now, as the share of agriculture in the total employment is already falling, in the coming years, definitely the services share in the economy would increase. Now, the Indian economy, it has contributed to the service sector of about 55.2 percentage in GDP. Now, it's growing by 10% annually, contributing to the total employment and a high share in the foreign direct investment. And one third of total exports are recording, and also it is increasing very fast at 27.4 4% in export growth of the first half for the first quarter of 2010 and 11. Now, while the latest data, this particular data, it has been taken from national and international sources. Now, this was for a time period which was before 10 years. So current statistics you'll have to know. Now some services such as infrastructure, it includes roads, railways, even civil aviation, financial services and social services. So the social services, when we speak, what does it include? So social services include the health and education, okay, and it plays a major role in enhancing the contribution of service sector, especially in the Indian economy. Now see this particular data that has been put up in your slide. Now this was taken by World Trade Organization data, and it was recently updated in on June 14th. So this is the data that was updated before 3 days. Okay. Now we shall see the contribution of service sector to Indian economy for this particular day or date. Now having discussed so many things about service sector, now this service sector, it is not only the dominant sector in India's GDP, but it also has attracted significant amount of foreign investment. Now it has contributed significantly to export and also provided a large scale employment. So, what is the market size of service sector? Now, the service sector, as we said, it is the main driver of Indian economic growth. Now, the service sector, it contributes to 55.39% of India's gross value added. That too at the current price of financial year 2020. Now this gross value added for the basic price at current price in the second quarter of 2021 is estimated at rupees 42.80 lakh crore, or it is 580.80 billion US dollars. Now, as against of rupees 44.66 lakh crore or 633.57 billion US dollar in the second quarter of 1920, this is showing a contraction of 4.2%. Now, according to Reserve Bank of India, in February 2021, the service sector, which stood at US dollar 17.54 billion, while imports stood at US dollar 10.61 billion. So what are the industrial developments that are happening because of this service sector? Now, some of the development in the service sector that is happening in the recent past are, first one we can see about the services category in India attracted cumulative foreign direct investment which was worth of 85.86 billion US dollars, and this happened between April 2000 and December 2020. Now, the service sector is ranked first in the FDI flow as per the data released by the Department for Promotion of Industry and International Trade, or what we call as DPIIT. And the second point that we can see how it helps in industrial development is that In April 2021, the Ministry of Education or MOE and University Grants Commission UGC it started a series of online interaction with stakeholders to streamline forms and processes to reduce the compliance burden in the higher education sector. Now, as a follow up, the government focuses on ease of doing business to enable ease of living for the stakeholders. And on March 17, 2021, the Health Ministry's eSanjeevani telemedicine service it crossed 3 million teleconsultations since its launch. It enables patients to doctor consultation from the confines of their home and also doctor to doctor consultation. Now, and in April 2021, if we see the Elon Musk's SpaceX, it has started accepting pre-orders for the beta version of its Starlink satellite internet service in India for a fully refundable deposit of 99 US dollars currently. Now, the Department of Telecommunication is screening the move, and more developments will be unveiled soon. And in December 2020, a cohort of 6 health tech startups that is Arogya AI, Brainsight AI, Fluid AI, InMed Prognostics, Wealthy Therapeutics, and Onward Assess have been selected by the Indian Edison Accelerator, which is fueled by GE Healthcare and Indian Edison Accelerator, the company's first startup partnership program focused on Indian mentors, which creates strategic partners to co-develop healthcare solutions. Now, the Indian healthcare industry it is expected to shift, digitally enabled remote consultation via teleconsultation, and the telemedicine market in India is expected to increase at a CAGR of 31% from 2020 to 2025. And also in December 2020, this Gamma Skills Automation training it introduced a unique robotics and automation career launch program for engineers called as an Industry 4.0 hands-on skill learning center. It is located at IMT Manesar Gurgaon in Haryana. And also in December 2020, the Ignite program was initiated by Siemens, BMZ and MHDE to encourage high quality training and also technical education. This Ignite aims to develop highly trained technicians by giving an emphasis on getting them ready for the industry and future. Now, based on German dual vocational educational training model, and by 2024, this program, it aims to upskill almost 40,000 employees. And also in October 2020, this Bharati Airtel entered cloud communication market by launching a business-centric Airtel IQ. So, these are some of the facts of the recent, that is, for the last 6 months, how service sector is contributing to Indian economy. Now, in the slide that has been put up, you can see the advantages that Indian economy gets from service sector. From demand side, how through competitive advantage and by increased investment and policy support. Now, these are the things how service sector is contributing to Indian economy. So, what is that government is doing, or what are the initiatives that government is taking so that it can further enhance this sector and take the most advantage of it? Now, the government it recognized the importance of promoting growth in service sector, and also it provides several initiatives across a very wide variety of sectors like healthcare, tourism, education, engineering, communication, transportation, information, finance, banking, technology, and also management, among other sectors. Now, this government of India, it has adopted few of the initiatives in the recent past. The first one is, under the Union Budget of 21-22, government has allocated rupees 7,000 crore to the BharatNet program to boost digital connectivity across in India. And the foreign direct investment limit for insurance company has been raised from 49% to 74% and 100% for insurance intermediates. And also in January 2021, that is January 15, the third phase of Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. It was launched in 600 districts with 300 plus skill courses. Now, spread headed by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, the third phase will focus on new age and also COVID related skills. So this, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 3.0, it aims to train 8 lakh candidates. Also in January 2021, the Department of Telecom uh, it signed an MOU with the Ministry of Communication, that is of Japan's government. This was done to strengthen cooperation in the areas of 5G technologies, telecom security, and submarine optical fiber cable system. And on November 4, 2020, the Union Cabinet, which was staged by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it approved to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology and the Department of Digital, Cultural, Media and Sports of United Kingdom government to cooperate in the field of telecommunications, information and communication technologies. So in October 2020, the government selected Hughes Communications India to connect 5,000 village panchayats in border and Naxal affected states and island territories with satellite broadband under BharatNet project, and it had to be done by March 2021. And in September 2020, the government announced that it may infuse, 200 billion rupees in public sector banks through recapitalization of bonds. And in the next 5 years, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology is working to increase the contribution of digital economy to 20% of the gross domestic product. So the government is working to build, cloud-based infrastructure for collaborative networks that can be used for the creation of different kinds of innovative solution by AI entrepreneurs and also the startups. On 15th August 2020, Prime Minister announced the National Digital Health Mission or NDHM. Now, it provides a unique health ID to every Indian and revolutionized the healthcare industry by making it easily accessible to everyone in the country. So, the policy draft is under public consultation until September 21, 2020. And in September 2020, the government of Tamil Nadu it announced a new electronics and hardware manufacturing policy, which is aligned with the old policy and which increases the state's electronics output to 100 billion US dollars by 2025. So, under the policy, it aims to meet the requirement of incremental human resource by upskilling and training more than 1 lakh people by 2024. So this government of India has launched the National Broadband Mission with an aim to provide broadband access to all the villages by 2022. So by next year there would be no problem even if the classes are going to happen through online. So now these are some of the important facts that are to be known the way it is. Now there is no way we can write it on your own. You have to go through the information. This information definitely I shall share both the information that we spoke of from the beginning of today's session. Now, there is no way you can add your perception to all this. These are the actual data and facts how there has been contribution of the service sector to Indian economy. And the data that has been taken, well, it is for the last 7 to 8 months. Now, having said that, this is how service sector is contributing to the Indian economy and how the government is taking the initiative. So, what might be the road ahead for service sector in Indian economy? Now, this road ahead it speaks that by 2023, the healthcare industry is expected to reach 132 billion US dollars. So India's digital economy is also estimated to reach US dollar 1 trillion by 2025. And by the end of 2023, India's information technology and business service sector it is expected to reach a whopping US dollar 14.3 billion with 8% growth. Now the implementation of the goods and service tax that is GST. It has created a common national market and also it has reduced the overall tax burden on goods. So it is expected to reduce costs in the long run on account of availability of GST input credit, which will result in the reduction in the prices of services especially. So the now we saw uh, all the data regarding this in terms of both Indian rupees and in terms of US dollar. Now remember one thing, this currency we measure it in terms of the exchange rate. So the all the conversion rate it was used for April 2021, that is especially that we spoke under contribution of service sector to Indian economy. Now the conversion rate was rupees 1 is equal to 0.01334 US dollars. Now whatever we spoke for this particular slide, that is contribution of service sector to Indian economy, that we spoke in terms of this exchange price rate, that is 1 rupees is equal to US dollar 0.01334. So class, can you give me the attendance for this particular session?
Janak.
Yes, Jannat.
Akash ma'am.
Mahesh ma'am.
Akash, Mahesh, who else? Prashant,
Nikhil.
okay, and Nikhil. I guess that's it for this session. Yes? Was there anybody who was present? Okay. Take a break of 10 minutes and join back by 11 o'clock. Okay. So we shall see in our next session the characteristics of service sector and why we have to study service marketing. So take a break, come join back by 11 o'clock. In our last session, we discussed regarding how the service sector is contributing to Indian economy. So in this session, we shall discuss how is that we can differentiate between services from that of goods. Now, this task of differentiating goods from that of service is a very difficult one, especially in the market offer. Okay, now you can see the opinion of different people as to what a goods is, what a service is. Now, one of the definition that has been taken from one of the market specialists called as Levitt. Now, he tells that there is absolutely much differentiation cannot be made as to what is a service, what is a goods. He Levitt defines, I quote, in almost every tangible pure physical product, an intangible service component is associated. Therefore, everybody is in service. So, what does that mean? He means that, you know, uh, it can be a product itself, it can be a good itself, okay? But then, in this process of moving it from the producer to the consumer, or even in this pure physical product, if it has to reach the destination, then definitely it includes some intangible service components to it. So that is where he tells that everybody is in service. Now, this person, he has classified products into two categories, that he has categorized it into search goods and experience goods. So what are these search goods? Now, speaking about this search goods. Search goods are those which are packaged and customers can see. Okay, they can evaluate those goods and they also can go on for trial before making the purchase. So I'll repeat it once again. Search goods are those that are packaged and customers can see, evaluate, and also can go for a trial before they make purchase. Now, if we give example, it would be more easy. Now, example for such goods are like it can be scooters, it can be a ceiling fan, the locks, and all other things which can be packaged, which can be seen and evaluated. It can be trialed. All those comes under search goods. And the second one is that he has categorized is experience goods. So what are these experience goods? Now experience goods are those that can be evaluated only after purchase and consumption. Now no matter how much you know about this, without you consuming it, without you purchasing it, you cannot make a evaluation on. And the example are maybe a holiday travel, that is the best example, or even the education facility. So experience goods are those that which can be evolved only after either purchasing it or after consuming it. Now you have heard about Kotler. Now Kotler, he is one of the world's leading authorities on marketing. Now he has classified products into 5 categories so that he is able to establish a goods service relation among these products or between the goods and products. The first one he speaks about is pure tangible goods. You know what is tangible? And the first one he takes is pure tangible goods. So, what is it according to Kotler? Now, according to Kotler, pure tangible goods are like commodities which are identical and are homogeneous in nature. Now, differentiating these kind of goods from supplier's identity is difficult. Consumers, they will not attach any specific value to a little associated service. Now, to give an example, the agricultural goods and also unbranded goods. Now, unbranded goods mostly which falls from tiny and small scale industry, they come under this first category of pure tangible goods, where it becomes very much difficult to differentiate the goods from that of supplier's identity. Now, the second categorization that he makes is the tangible goods with accompanying service. Now, in this categorization, what happens is consumers give greater importance to the tangible part of the market offer. However, the services which accompanying the tangible goods, they also make a part of the value assessment which is done by the users or the buyers. Now, these buyers, they get the title of the tangible goods transferred and also get the ownership of the goods. The accompanying service, though accounting for a minor share in the total offer, they normally try to provide a competitive advantage to the seller. So, from this perspective, it there is a significant development that took place in technology development, and most producers are unable to find technical advantage of tangible factors, and also they find different kinds of sources of differentiation in accompanying services. Now, a majority of manufacturing products, they fall under this category. Now, the role of services under this category is to support the tangible product. Now, services are identified and valued only in association with tangible goods. And the third one we have here is hybrid, or this categorization. We can tell that it is a typical marketing offer, okay, where tangible goods and services may be given equal importance by consumer. Now, both the tangible products, goods and services would be given equal importance. For example, people patronize a restaurant for both the food and services. Okay. Now, how much the food should be tasted, even the services provided there would be equally important. But there is also this fact that the contribution of goods and services may not be equal in all restaurants despite being important to consumer. That is to tell, in a five-star hotel, services take a prominent place when compared to that of food items. Whereas in an ordinary restaurant, the proportion may be more or less equal. Okay, and in a fast food outlet, food may dominate as compared to services. Now you can also observe this. Now, if at all we eat in a fast food uh, you know fast food outlets, what for us what matters is the food. Maybe the best example is the pani puri that we eat. Okay, we do not want all the comfort as to we have to sit with the table has to has to be there, we cannot stand and eat. No, nothing. What is important is the food that we get. But some of the other restaurants where we pay nominally high rate or a medium level of it. There we expect both the food to be good and also the ambience and the other services to be good. If either of them fails, then we would not be going to such a hotels once again. But whereas when it comes to five-star hotels, more than importance what we give for the food items, there is a lot of chance that we give importance to the service that would be getting from such outlets. Therefore, there is a possibility of having a hybrid category of products, but it is uncommon to have a significant portion of such products in any economy it might be. Now, there are services. The fourth categorization is about services with accompanying tangible goods. Now, this is a market offer in which the intangible part is dominant. Okay, people buy services but not tangible goods involved in the production of services. Now, accompanying goods, they play a major role in the value assessment of services that is received by the consumer. That is, for example, people buy mobility services from a transport organization. Okay, maybe you want to travel from Mangalore to Bombay. Now, with one of the traveling company, you shall book the service. Now, that is what you have brought. But then, to provide this service, the transport organization, they need tangible products such as bus, maybe truck or train or helicopter, aeroplane, and anything that you have booked. Now, although consumers do not buy the tangibles, the condition of the vehicle, maybe the exterior or the interior, the facilities that are there in the vehicle, the comfort that they get, The speed and so on and such other things play a major role in assessing the value of the service. So, a vast majority of service products normally fall under this category. And the fifth categorization that he makes is pure services. The first one was pure tangible goods, and the last one is pure services. So, what is this pure services? Now, pure service is a marketing offer where consumers confine themselves to valuing only the services they receive and nothing else. So, services without any support of goods can serve the purpose of users and are capable of giving satisfaction to consumers. Okay, now the services that are given under consultancy, the teaching, idea selling, they all fall under this category of pure service. Now, if we see the tangible spectrum, here are some of the examples that has been given in terms of them being tangible in domain and intangible domain. Now, restaurant is less tangible as compared to television. Television is still more less tangible as compared to automobiles, and it is cosmetics, soft drinks, and matchbox is highly tangible. Whereas when it comes to intangible domains, um, transport is mostly tangible, whereas teaching is intangible. This is just an example. You need not have to break your head behind this. If at all you have your examples, you can make your own diagram. This is just to show the tangible domain and the intangible domain. Now here arise the questions, why is that we have to study service marketing? Now, what is the importance that we understand service marketing? Don't we already have marketing? Is it not enough for marketing service also? Why again a distinction when we have marketing? Why we have to separate it from the goods? We have to differentiate it to be service, then come up with a different service marketing for it. Okay, so yeah, or the question also be like, no, is it really necessary that differentiation is necessary in the marketing? Well, the answer to all these dilemmas or all these questions is the one which provides the basic platform for understanding service marketing. Now, it is all said and done that a different marketing approach is very much necessary for a service marketing, because services undoubtedly differ from goods in many respect, many aspects. Okay, now I said yes, it is very much necessary that we study service marketing, because there is difference among what makes a particular product goods and what makes a particular product to be service. So what some of the basic differences between physical goods and services. First one is with regard to tangibility. Now, all things seen and discussed, service, they are definitely intangible in nature. That is to tell, which cannot be seen, which cannot be touched. It can only be experienced. Whereas goods, they are very much tangible. Now, second point of differentiation comes from the point of view of their heterogeneity. Now, services are always heterogeneous. No matter the service provider may be the same person, but no two services provided would be exactly same in nature. That is to tell, in your college there might be two of the section for same class. That is, maybe second year MBA might be having two section, that is section A and section B. For both the section I might be taking the same subject, that is service marketing. But what I teach in one class would be definitely very much different than what I teach in the other class. Now, as compared to this aspect of service, when we speak about goods, they are very much homogeneous in nature. Now, with regard to production, these services they are produced in buyer-seller interaction, whereas goods they are produced in a factory especially. Now, one more differentiating point is that the production, distribution, and consumption, all these take place simultaneously in the case of services. Whereas in case of goods, the production, distribution, and consumption, they are separate and independent functions. Now you can always give example to make the answers better. Now one more point of distinction is consumers are co-producers when it comes to services. Now but whereas this product consumer they do not generally participate in the production of goods. And the last point is from the point of view of the ownership. Now, in the sale of service, the transfer of ownership does not take place, whereas in case of goods, it does takes place. That is to tell, the services that you have taken might be the one we took, that is ordering a travel service to travel from Mangalore to Bombay. Now, when you have purchased this service, you would not be owning the bus. You have only paid for the service that you have got. But when you pay for a goods, the ownership also you would be getting. So now this six differentiation, they make up the characteristics of services. So the first one here is the intangibility. Now intangibility, now services they are undoubtedly intangible in nature. Now compare physical product to that of services. Services they cannot be seen, neither can be tasted or heard or smelt before they are bought. Okay, this intangibilityness it creates a feeling of uncertainty about the outcome of service. Now that is to tell, the tourist he or she they'll not know about the exact outcome of experience before they consume the service. Or that is to tell a women, who has purchased the services of a beauty parlor for maybe to get a facial, she cannot foresee the exact result. So the characteristics of the service will always make buyers to look for evidence of quality in the service offer. So buyers try to draw quality interference from the components of service environment, such as the place, people, equipment, or communication material, or any kind of symbols, and the technical design of the service package. So to handle the given marketing problem, The service providers, they always have to manage evidence. Now they should try to make the intangible tangible to the best possible extent. That is to tell, if at all I'm providing tour services, then maybe I should see to that the bus they travel is comfortable enough. That the place where they would stay, it is comfortable enough. So I should try to make this intangible as much as tangible in nature. So the service design should be able to transfer intangible services into concrete benefits that the customers can have. Now, with this regard, let us take an example of insurance company which wants to put itself as a modern insurance company. So how would be the process of a company to make a service tangible? Okay. So some of the things that it can include is, first one is location and physical setting. That is to tell the location at which service outlets are established. They should be accessible to target consumers. So the physical setting must be convenient for both employees and customers. Now, the layout and the traffic flow should be planned in such a way, that waiting lines should not be long. And also the exterior design must be attractive and indicative of the service level, and the interior should be designed meaningful. Now, second aspect would be with regards to employees and agents. That is to tell, these agents and employees, they should be sufficient in number, and also they should be busy in interactions. Now, they should possess a pleasant and neat appearance, sharpness, and knowledge of services and also customers. And the third aspect that we can see is with regards to tools and techniques and hardware. That is to tell, the company should be equipped with the latest hardware which can support the service process and also which helps the employees in providing quality and speedy services to their customers. So the company should create an impression that it uses the state of the art technology in servicing their customers. One more thing that can be taken care of is the communication. So the material used for communicating with customers should suggest both efficiency and speed. Now, the second characteristic of service is inseparability. That is, there is no way that service can be separated from the service provider. In fact, the production, delivery, and consumption of services, it takes place at the same time in the buyer seller interaction. So this characteristic of the service always creates problem to the maker, particularly when it comes to the market expansion. So no matter where service provides intend to offer service, they should have service production unit that offer the same service quality standard. But then some service organizations have reduced the direct interaction by introducing new technology. Now, for example, banking organization, they have introduced check, credit card, telebanking, and ATM facility to minimize buyer seller interaction. And now we do have things like GPay, phone pay, which makes payment easier. So the customer of the, maybe we can take State Bank of India. He or she can interact through interest or online banking or telephone, ATM, and also besides other conventional means of going to bank and doing all this transaction. So if we see, in making this problem solvable for the service sector, technology has contributed beyond the expectation. It has made the services available to the customer at an easy way. Now, traditionally, if we see even teaching, there was no other way instead of face-to-face conversation, or you had to have a book and learn all by yourself. But now, even you do have internet learning. You can sit in one part of the world and get educated from an institution which is at far away or entirely the other point of the world. So that is how the technology has helped in solving this inseparability problem. Then we have this question of characteristics of variability. That which tells that services are highly variable. Or in other words, two different services provided may be by the same person. They can never be similar in nature. That is to tell, it is almost impossible to have the same services from the same seller the second time. So, no two customers can receive identical service even though they experience it simultaneously. The example can be, the experience of bus. Now, the experiences of bus travelers vary with the seats they occupy. The experience of passengers sitting on the window side, inner side, front end, and rear end of the bus will not be similar, though they avail the service simultaneously also. So, a receptionist of a hotel cannot extend the same kind of smile to customers during all the working hours. Further experience also vary with the knowledge, co-customer, the ability to participate, mood and other behavioral variables of the service consumers. So here the service organization face major problem when it comes to standardizing and also communicating services standards because of this variability that exists. Now, while customer expects from a company the communication relating to service standard to arrive at a purchase decision, service provider often struggle to develop with service standards. However, this problem of variability of services uh, can be used also as an opportunity by service organization. Now, because innovation is the key to success, this characteristic of services, it offers enormous opportunities to introduce several changes in the services offered without distributing the basic structure of the offer. So the service provider can offer better experience and also delight customers by introducing surprise changes in the service packages. Now, the next characteristic is that with regard to perishability. What does this mean? This means services are perishable. They cannot be stored. That is to tell, a half full train which leaves the railway station means that the service of the empty half remains unused. So, an unutilized service capacity cannot be used further. When the demand is stable, perishability cannot be a problem to the service organization. However, service firms they might face many problems when demand fluctuates. Now, the major challenge to all these firms is to balance the supply demand position. So, here the demand management is one of the major tasks for service firms. Now, how this demand plays an important role, we can give an example. Okay. Now, APSRTC, you might have heard about this, or Andhra Pradesh State Road Transportation Company. Now, it was established in 1932 and it was such a successful company that it found a place in Guinness World Book of World Record. But why did it has its place there? Now, in 1999, for operating the largest number of the buses, it was placed in Guinness Book of World Record. That is to tell, back then the corporation had a fleet of about 20,000 buses which used to cover 6.63 million kilometer and also carry 127.87 million people to their destination every year. Okay, and for this reason the corporation had received several awards for performance on various counts. But then this was at the peak of the demand, and when it dominated the market. So what happened was the corporation had received, had to face a serious problem of falling occupancy ratio. And it happened from 97 to 2007. What happened was during this time, local transportations like autos, rickshaws, and other tiny private transportation, they took away the demand from the APS RTC. So the corporation, the corporation's future was very much in depth, jeopardy due to accumulated losses. So it primarily worked on changing the attitude of the frontline employers from public sector ego state to passenger friendly behavior besides other measures. Okay, so in 2007-8 the corporation made a profit after 10 years of successive loss. So the company ratio increased from 65% in 2004 to 70% in 2007-8. So this is where we tell that demand management becomes vital for the success of the corporation, or that the problem you will have to find a way how you can use it for the success of the company. The next one is that of customer participation. So, service production is not a one-sided activity. Now, customers are co-producers of a service. Now, the production quality of the service, it generally depends on the ability, skill, and also performance of the employees, as well as the ability of the performance of the customers also. So, in the service interaction, although employee and customers are not the equal part of production, now the role of the customer cannot be overemphasized. So, service firm should make customers aware of the service package and the production process through proper communication medium. Okay, that is to tell, now, take an example that tourists, they can perceive the architecture appearance and the environmental beauty of Taj Mahal, which is there in Agra, in many different ways. But if at all they are informed about the legendary story that is behind it and the significance of Taj Mahal, the tourist involvement, their experience, and the perceived quality definitely changes significantly. So, tourists perceive greater value of their visit to Taj Mahal. Now, service company therefore should take necessary steps to ensure customer satisfaction, which lead to a quality experience of services. So customer participation is greatly influenced by content, media, and also mode of communication with the customer. Now, this is to tell it may not be necessary to train customer for effective participation in service process, and also to learn the methodology of quality perception and assessment. So perfection from the organization's side in service production cannot ensure positive result unless customers are equally effectively involved in the process. Therefore, specific and special orientation to different groups of customers is very much necessary. Now, with this regard, now customization, what we tell. Now, it is one of the key strategies that the firms may adopt to ensure effective and efficient participation of customers. So, customer participation is always active in services such as medical treatment or hairdressing, health clubs, or colleges, and also beauty care centers. Now, last but not least, we have the lack of ownership. Now, service consumer, they acquire experience, okay? They do not own the ownership. Now, since services are intangible and perishable, but this characteristic adds to the problems of the service marketing. Now, convincing the customer with tangible goods on which they will have ownership through transfer of title is much easier than selling an experience where nothing remains after consumption except the memory of it. So, customer dissonance would be higher in case of services than that of goods. So, this is one of the characteristics of service marketing. So now we saw six different characteristics. Now each of it there is marketing problems or we have challenges. So how is that we can use strategic options to overcome this? Now first for some of the problems with intangibility is that it cannot be communicated easily or consumer suspects due to absence of concurrative evidence. Now, design of the tool service package might not be possible, or cooperative, you know, presentations is not, comparative presentations is not possible. Now, these are some of the problem with intangibility. Now, what is that we can use that this can be overcome? So we can make the service process tangible to the maximum possible extent, or we can manage and promote word of mouth communication. That works wonders. We can strengthen internal and external marketing as well. We can also use relationship marketing to solve this problem. Okay, and we have inseparability characteristic. With this the problem is problem of maybe marketing expansion or maintenance of service quality. You have compulsorily presence of consumers is necessary, and there is limitation on production capacity or operations at a limited capacity we have. Now, to overcome this, maybe we can minimize customer interaction as we give the example of ATMs. Now, it might involve techniques of indirect interactions The same example we can tell. Now, standardization to the maximum possible extent can be done, or there can also be development of distribution network with quality control mechanisms are possible. Now, third one, we speak about the variability. Now, the problem with the variability is there is limited scope for standardization. That is the first thing. The next problem is that there is no possibility to communicate exactly what the consumer is going to receive. And one more problem is quality can be determined only after the services are consumed. So what are the points that we can look after? So there should be more focus on standardization, or internal marketing and employee interaction should be more, and positioning variation as a strength of innovation has to be taken place, and promoting research and innovation becomes important to solve this problem of variability. Then we have perishability. So what is this? Now, what is perishability? It is that storage of services is not possible. That sales volume should match the capacity of the organization. That there is time pressure in sales. So how can we solve all these problems? Now, if we have demand management, if we have capacity management, if we have a tactical approach to all this problem, or a continuous study on demand patterns and competitive parameters, we can solve all such problems. Now, the first one was customer participation. Now, what are the problems with this customer participation? Now, the main is that customers are not controllable, and this production quality, it also depends on the customer's knowledge and also their ability to participate in this particular function. And also, customers are evaluated at every stage of service production. And to solve this, effective external marketing has to be done. Now, customers' education and training also becomes important. It also, effective interactive marketing has to be done, and also management of, moments of truth has to be realized, and effective internal marketing has to be done. Now, one of the problem is that lack of ownership. Now, that is to tell nothing remains once after consuming a service, or very less time for the consumer to evaluate a product is available. And there is a high consumer distance. Now, to solve all this, you know, it should be seen that communication is made as much as tangible, and there should be customer relationship marketing, or they should be managing high level of company image. So by through all these things, these problems that are included in the characteristics of services can be solved to some possible extent. May not be full, but to some possible extent it can definitely be reduced. So this is all about the characteristics of services. Now let us speak about the growth of the service sector. We said that in today's world, it is service sector which is contributing the most to the economy of any country it might be. So, if it has to contribute more and more every time, definitely it should be having some kind of growth. So, how is this growth happening? Now, if you see the growth of service sector, it is a global trend. Now, as we discussed earlier, there are many economies which have already become service economies, and there are many other economies which are following in the footsteps of this. Now, if we take back the data that was there in 2007, now service accounted for 66.4% of GDP in United States, and more than 80% of the workforce in the US is employed in the service sector. Now, the growth of service is directly linked to the development of the economy. Now, the majority of the workforce, if you see, in all the developed countries in the world, including the UK, France, Germany, Japan, and Canada, they are engaged in service organization. The fact sheet shows that Service Marketing Insight of the Department for Professional Employees, uh, it testifies the growth of services in US especially. So there is two of the marketers, that is JB Quinn and C. Gagnon. Okay, they identified the contribution of the service sector to any economy. Now they have given five reasons how does it contributes. Okay, the first one is, now this particular topic we spoke from point of view of US economy, because the textbook that I have gone through is published under Pearson Publishers. Now that book, they were speaking about the global trend. So the facts that has been taken represents to that of US economy. Okay. Now we were discussing regarding J.B. Quinn and C. Gagan, that they had identified the contribution of the service sectors to any economy, and they have made this point. The first one is, people value services highly as manufactured goods. That is, services are not something one looks at after goods needs have been met. Now they go hand in hand. The next one is, the value addition by firms is very well comparable to even higher than the value addition by the manufactured manufacturers of goods. Now the service sector, now it is at least as capital intensive as goods sector, and many service industry, they have a high technology impact. And the third point is that the service sector, sorry, the next point is that service industry, they tend to be just as concreted as manufacturing, and service firms, they tend to be sufficiently big in scale to be important and also sophisticated in nature. Now, this service industry, they develop productivity increase, which are big enough to support continuing real growth in per capita income. So, these are some of the points that had been made as to what are the main reasons for service sector to grow, at such a high rate in all the economies.